Smith & Wesson Governor, load choice matters. And I'm going to do a ballistic test today, and I'll show you the ballistic medium here in a minute. And it's going to be kind of interesting what I plan to do here. But, you know, a lot of people have the misconception that this gun is absolutely awful because they think it's a shotgun handgun and it's only for 410, when actually the gun is actually chambered for 45 Colt. If you actually look in the cylinder and the chambers, what you'll see is that at the end of the length of a 45 Colt is where, you know, the cylinder throat starts. And because 410 and also chamber 45 ACP is smaller than 45 Colt on its base and its neck diameter, basically you're completely set up for 45 Colt. And actually I've ran some buffalo bore through this thing that has rated numbers for a 4-inch barrel, and actually got higher than those rated velocity numbers in this, even though this would be a little bit shorter as an equation to a 4-inch barrel, because it's basically like a 3.5-inch barrel revolver, even though the barrel length is 2 3/4 inch. So I'm gonna run some 45 ACP through it. I'm gonna run some Birdshot through it, some Buckshot through it, some 45 Colt in my ballistic test. And the main reason why I would do this is because Birdshot. I want to test some Birdshot, and a lot of people have the idea with this type of gun, they think, well, it's a good carjacking gun, and a face full of Birdshot at 10 feet, nobody's, you know, getting up from that. That's what people have said to me countless times, a face full of Birdshot. But what I'm going to do for my ballistic test here is I'm actually going to shoot from 10 yards. And the reason why 10 yards is because, you know, that the 7-yard distance that you hear about all the time is the FBI standard. And that doesn't take into account any of the lethality of the officer, whether the officer survived or not. But there was an Illinois State Police study that showed that if you're from 10 yards, you're probably going to survive that incident. So I'm going to shoot from 10 yards, and here is my ballistic guy here. And this is my first attempt at making something like this, so don't laugh. So what we got here is I have a couple inches of clear ballistics. Followed by that, I have a whole panel here of 1/4 inch MDF to represent hitting our ribs or sternum. And then I have about another 4 inches of clear ballistics. And I have some paper back here, see if we get any pass-throughs. But my whole point on something like this is I think if I can get through the entire thing here, that's going to represent whether this would be a decent loads or not. Because a lot of people tell me the same thing, or ask the same question, or they say the same comment. When I do 3 inches of clear ballistics for a pectoral muscle, who are you shooting, Arnold Schwarzenegger? Well, the thing is, clear ballistics, you know, your maximum is 18 inches is as far as you want to go before it's considered over penetration, and a human being is oftentimes 9 inches. So what's that telling you? What that's telling you is that clear ballistics is basically like half as dense as a person. So if we got 6 inches here of clear ballistics, that's really like we're going through 3 inches, and then the MDF adds a couple more inches. So we're looking with maybe 5-6 inches of actual tissue and bones if we go through this entire thing. So I'm going to test these different loads from 10 yards and just kind of see how they compare and see if that Birdshot really is any good, because if you can't effectively stop a threat from 10 yards with a given load, I don't necessarily think it's a very good load choice, because 10 yards really isn't that far away. So let's get started with this test. All right, with 10 yards from our ballistic target here, I got some Birdshot, by the way, it's number 9, 2.5 inch. I don't know the shot weight on that, but Birdshot. So let's see what we got. All right, so we can look at the head target there, and we can see where some go in about halfway. You know, we're working with about as much as about 3 inches of penetration, which would really only be about 1.5 inches on a person's skin. Same thing here, and I don't see anything coming through that MDF. So hitting ribs, it would stop before the ribs. It would not be very lethal. So I don't necessarily think that's a good load choice for something like that. So let's try something else. Here's our triple-aught buck, and yes, I know there's better choices out there than this, like the Federal. I'm going to test that at some point, but As long as I can make a hit on that target, this will kind of give me an idea of what I'm looking to know. So we got a triple out buckshot. Let's see what happens. Hit this guy from 10 yards. All right, I got one hit at least, so let's go take a look. So what we could tell from a test like that is without the right buckshot, it is hard to make a hit. I only made one hit. And if that was a better buckshot, yeah, we'd make multiple hits. But all I needed was to see one of those. And what we're seeing here is we went through here. And by the way, we have just a thin layer of t-shirt. And we went clean through right here and right out the back. So I'm going to say that buckshot is effective at 10 yards. As long as you have a good enough one that you can hit your target. So let's try something else. Next up, we have some 45 ACP and moon clips. I have some critical defense here. I have some gold dot. Let me run these gold dot in here first. These are 230 grain gold dots. See what happens when I hit them. Yeah, we can definitely tell a reduction in velocity with those. All right, let's go take a look. Alright, got at least 2 hits on there. And sometimes these things do shoot kind of high. And we definitely got some pass-throughs here, enough energy to pretty much do that to that piece of metal there. Just a good amount of energy, even though we're really reducing that velocity down quite a bit. So that's pretty impressive. Now let's try our critical defense. Alright, these are 185 grain critical defense. And I tried to run them over the chronograph. I couldn't get a reading, but I can definitely tell with these that we're losing less pressure than we are with the gold dot for some reason. They just sounded a lot louder. So let's see what we can get with this. All right, let's go take a look. So I got some solid hits on them. And again, it looks like we're going through. We might have one that didn't, but it looks like it's consistently going through. Now let's try our 45 Colt. And this is really what would constitute the right load for a gun like this, other than a good buckshot. You know, I had 933 feet per second in the past with this, 358 foot-pounds energy, 185 grains. So it's not really losing anything coming out of this gun. So let's see what we got. Tell that's got some power. Let's go take a look. All right, we definitely have some pass-throughs, and I'm betting those were passing through a lot faster than a lot of these loads. So let me try another 45 Colt load. 870 feet per second, 370 foot-pounds on these 220 grain maximum expansion. These are specifically designed for 410 revolvers, or should I say 45 Colt revolvers that can shoot 410. So they won't fit in like your standard 45 Colt revolver, but they're powerful rounds and they have a lot of copper that's supposed to expand really large. So let's make a hit with this and see what happens. Oh, let's go take a look at that. All right, so pretty much rattle them a little bit there. Yeah, see that? That's expanding as it's going through there, no doubt. No doubt at all. Because it's ripping that up. So, last but not least, I know a lot of people are going to want to see, like, okay, 10 yards or 10 feet, birdshot to the face. See what happens, see how effective it is. Looks like we had some birdshot hits before on these glasses and it stopped them, so. I'm going to say from the muzzle, I'm going to be about 3 feet here, so see what happens to them. And that bird shot stopped on those glasses, these safety glasses, from like 7 feet. So people are probably thinking something like this, carjacking, we're this close, let's see what happens. All right, let's take this guy up here and take a look at him closer. All right, so that last shot kind of decapitated him. And, you know, we didn't get any pastures, but yeah. So what we're looking at there is about 3 inches into the skin there. I'm not even sure if that would be lethal at that distance. But, you know, a person's ability to see would be completely gone. Unless they're wearing those safety glasses there. And what we're working with here now, with this guy, I'm just going to take a look at the MDF under here. This is where we're hitting our MDF. And clearly where we hit with actual bullets, you know, they went right through. Now, what I could see here is maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 little, barely any marks on that. So birdshot would definitely not be very effective as a self-defense round. And in fact, you know, if you had to shoot from 10 yards, you could just about guarantee this is not going to even cause a serious wound. So birdshot is definitely not a good choice for self-defense. So my main point on this is if you want to have a good load for this gun here, that's a decent load, you're going to want to go with 45 Colt. And if you want the extra option to go with something like Buckshot for self-defense, then you have that option. As long as you go with a quality Buckshot like the Federal, which I'm going to test here soon, or the Kirkley Fence, or the Winchester PDX-1. Well, they used to call it the PDX-1, now it's the Defender. So overall, it's a pretty effective gun. And what makes this kind of different in a way is a lot of people that might be going into places where there's a lot of snakes and whatnot. You know, a pistol snake shot versus an actual 410 out of a handgun is going to be extremely more effective for something like that. So overall, it is a very versatile weapon. You have a lot of options that you could run through this, and you could take a lot of different game in a survival situation. If you have a good 45 Colt, you could take a deer, you could use a hardcast 45 Colt, which I'm testing shortly, and have bear defense. You shoot birdshot through it. You got personal defense with 45 Colt, 45 ACP, Buckshot, stuff like that. So I just wanted to do this test to just kind of clear all this up, that load choice matters, and it matters a lot for a gun like this. And there is a wide difference between something like birdshot and something like Buckshot, or 45 Colt, or 45 ACP. And I believe you can actually run 45 gap through this too. So if you're going to go personal defense, don't use Birdshot. It's just a bad choice, because the difference between it being effective and not being effective versus something like an actual bullet is massive. So that's what you get today. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.